Okay, so imagine this. You're on your shift right now. You've got a patient, and their vital signs are they're deteriorating fast. They're hitting all the high triggers on the NUWS2 score. The observations are screaming for an immediate senior review. But your registrar, your senior, is scrubbed in for an emergency operation. You get a quick bleep back, and it just says, I'm tied up for at least an hour. Just wait until the ward round.
And that moment, that's it right there. That is the ultimate test of your professional duty. It's that classic high-stakes collision between what's right for the patient and, what's convenient. Patient safety crashing headfirst into hierarchy and just immense pressure.
Exactly. And that conflict, that's what we're really digging into today. We're pulling from some pretty serious professional guidance and training material to get to the bottom of it. How do you successfully put the patient first every single time, even when the system or maybe even a senior colleague is pushing back? This isn't just theory. This is about real-world action and, well, accountability. Okay, let's unpack this.
The central idea, the mandate, is actually remarkably simple. Put patients first. It means you have to act on risk early. You escalate through formal, auditable channels, and you record everything objectively, even if that goes against a target or a routine or the hierarchy you've been, trained your whole career to respect.
And what's so interesting about that is we're not just talking about the ethics of it. We're looking at the logic of accountability.
Yeah.
You want to know which behaviors actually get rewarded when things are reviewed later. It's not just about who was right, but who followed the proper safety structure.
Precisely. Professional duty always rewards the person who can demonstrate they saw the risk early, they intervened, and they escalated through channels that can be audited and learned from. If you choose an option that delays care or protects some departmental figure or, tries to save a colleague from embarrassment, you are fundamentally failing in that duty. You're actively losing professional standing.
So let's nail this down, the absolute non-negotiable principle. If we were to draw a line in the sand, where does patient safety actually sit on that list of priorities? What's the one rule?
It's at the very top. The rule you have to internalize is that patient safety outranks absolutely everything else. Convenience, targets, reputations, even professional relationships. If safety is compromised or even just might be compromised, action is mandatory. You don't get to wait. And you really don't get to worry about whose feelings you might hurt by escalating.
That's a powerful statement. But let's be real, that often means challenging someone more senior than you or, potentially blowing a department's target for patient flow for the day. So what we're really saying is the duty is to act first and then to raise a formal concern if that action gets blocked or discouraged.
Absolutely. And when you look at the foundational guidance, the GMC standards, it all points to three core things when safety is on the line. 1, you act promptly to protect the patient. 2, you raise and act on concerns appropriately. And 3, you communicate effectively and keep clear records. In the EPR, the electronic patient record, the message is always the same. Safety first. Always.
That structural guidance is so important, especially when you feel that anxiety bubbling up. So if we have to act immediately when a red flag is raised, what are the actual steps? What's the high-yield professional approach? Give us the roadmap.
Okay, you need a clear, stepwise approach you can use under stress. There are 5 critical actions. First, you identify. Identify the concrete safety risks. You need objective tools, like that NUWS2 score we mentioned, to justify the urgency. Second, you intervene. You use immediate protocols. Stabilize the patient within your competence while help is on its way. So starting a sepsis bundle, managing an airway, things like that.
Okay, so identify and intervene. What's next?
Third, you escalate to an appropriate senior immediately, especially when the risk is high or, like in our starting scenario, you face obstruction. Fourth is communicate and do it with a framework like SBAR. Situation, background, assessment, recommendation. It forces clarity and it creates accountability. You set clear timeframes. And finally, number 5, you document everything. All decisions, conversations, actions. In the EPR, that's what allows for review and learning later on.
I really like that structure. In a crisis, you need a simple mental map to help everyone listening internalize those 5 steps. Is there a simple memory hook we can use?
Definitely. Just remember the word first. It embeds those steps right into your thinking. F is for flag risk. Identify it. I is for intervene. Stabilize now. R is for raise or escalate. Get senior help through an auditable channel. S is for secure the record. Document it all. And T is for track outcomes. You have to follow up, make sure the plan actually happened.
I like that. It also emphasizes the order. You act, you escalate, then you document immediately after. Okay, let's focus on the F and I for a moment. Flagging risk and intervening. What are the immediate red flags, the things
Mhm.
that demand action right now, not later? Because, not every slightly raised blood pressure counts.
Right. The guidance gives us 4 clear triggers where you absolutely cannot wait. The first one, and the most common, is meeting NUWS2 triggers or showing rapid clinical deterioration. If the numbers meet the criteria, you need immediate assessment and senior review. Full stop. The second is time-critical treatment delays. This one is huge. If essential treatments like emergency antibiotics or critical imaging are being pushed back beyond safe limits, the delay itself is the safety risk. You have to act.
Okay, so clinical signs and treatment delays. What else?
Third is equipment or system failures. If you find that the defibrillator isn't working or the suction is unreliable, you have to switch to a safe alternative immediately and escalate the system failure. And the fourth is staff impairment or unsafe staffing. If the workload is dangerous or you think a colleague is impaired, you have a duty to escalate for cover and adjust the workload to protect patients.
And when you spot one of those red flags, you have to be assertive, but
Yeah.
structured. Instead of just panicking, what's a good model phrase for escalating that gets rid of ambiguity and really establishes accountability?
You have to be direct and time critical. For example, going back to our patient, you'd say something like, "These observations meet new WS2 escalation criteria. I am initiating immediate stabilization measures now. I am calling the on-call registrar. If they are unavailable within 5 minutes, I will contact the duty consultant or site team directly." It's clear, it's structured, and it sets a deadline for the response. No wiggle room.
Okay, this brings us to the most difficult part of this, the traps. If safety is the #1 priority, why are there these common options that people fall for, things designed to make us fail? Let's talk about the decoys, the low-scoring answers.
These tracks are so tempting because they prioritize comfort or convenience or reputation over your actual duty, and they will always score low. The first big one is just agreeing to wait for the ward round or review the patient later. It's an unsafe delay. It ignores the red flags you were trained to spot.
What about how you raise the concern?
That's the second trap. Raise it informally on WhatsApp or some other team chat. It might be convenient, but it is not a formal, auditable route. For an urgent safety concern, you must use a traceable channel, a documented phone call, the bleep system, a formal incident report.
Right. And what about the administrative traps, like protecting metrics?
That's a big one. Any option suggesting you should protect our figures or targets today will score very low because targets never, ever outrank patient safety. If meeting a target means compromising care, you prioritize the patient and you document the reason for the delay honestly. And the last one, the personal trap, is to keep quiet to avoid conflict or to just assume a senior knows best. That breaches your fundamental duty to raise concerns.
Okay, let's go right back to that direct conflict scenario, because this is where the anxiety really spikes for people. I've reiterated the risk. My senior still insists I hold off. They're basically vetoing my assessment. Do I follow that chain of command or do I escalate past them? And I guess the bigger question is, what if I'm wrong? Doesn't that just break the chain of command and waste people's time?
That is the pivotal moment. And you have to stick to that patient-first principle, always. If a senior's instruction leaves a patient in what you, based on objective evidence like those NUWS2 scores, believe is a compromised safety position, you have a duty to escalate past that senior. The hierarchy is there to support patient safety, not to override it.
So what's the action?
The action is to clearly, calmly reiterate the risk with SBAR and a time frame. If safety is still compromised, you escalate immediately to the on-call consultant, the site team, ICU outreach, and you document everything, the original instruction, the resistance, everything. Your duty is to raise an honestly held, evidence-based concern. You don't need absolute proof to act. The investigation establishes proof. Your job is to make the patient safe.
So really what this all comes down to is being assertive, but structurally assertive, using SBR. And being auditable, making sure there's a clear factual record of who did what and when in the EPR. It seems the takeaway is that any option involving early action, structured escalation, and objective recording is always the highest scoring choice.
To summarize it all for you, really just 3 things to take away. First, your duty requires that safety outranks convenience, targets, and hierarchy. You have to internalize that. Second, act early on those clinical red flags like NUWS2 and use formal, auditable routes to escalate. Avoid those informal chats for urgent issues. And third, always use structured communication like SBAR, set clear timeframes, record the facts objectively, and then follow up to make sure learning actually happens.
We've seen that prioritizing patient safety takes more than just clinical awareness. It really takes organizational courage. It takes the structural assertiveness that frameworks like SBR can give you, We're always reminded that our duty includes candor, being honest, raising concerns, and learning, improving the system. So here's a final thought for you to take away from all this. If we're all trying to build a culture where raising concerns is normal, what kind of structural supports or maybe mandatory documentation could we champion in our future workplaces? Things that ensure when we do formally raise a concern about an unsafe practice or a system failure, the organization is built to respond effectively and supportively rather than defensively. Something to mull over as you integrate this deep dive into your professional practice.